Okay, so it is Friday, April 11th, 2025. I have some good news, I have some great news, and I have some absolutely horrible news today. We'll start with the good news first. And so Estonia arrested a Russian shadow fleet oil tanker Koala on the morning of April 11th near an island next to Tallinn in the Baltic Sea. The ship was on its way back to be reloaded with Russian oil. Igor Shushko said next time they should wait to arrest the ships when they're full, but nonetheless, the Estonians, like the Finns, are stepping up. And that's a good sign. Okay, there's a bipartisan bill that would allow the U.S. to confiscate oil on board Russian shadow fleet tankers. I'll talk about that again in just a little bit. Estonia seizes this Russian shadow tanker in the Baltic Sea for the first time. The vessel Koala headed to the Russian port of Ust-Luga, sailing near Estonia's territorial waters. At the time of the seizure, there were 23rd country nationals or 24th third country nationals. So a lot of people from other countries on board. The captain is a Chinese citizen. Marine traffic data shows that the Koala, a crude oil tanker, sails under the flag of Djibouti, but a Djiboutian official stated that the vessel is not registered in their system. So Estonia exercised its right to detain the ship for inspection. So they actually did it. Now, the more that they do this, the less, again, incentives matter. And so the more that the Baltic states and Finland and Sweden are willing to do this, the less this continues. Putin's aide Patrushev commented on Estonia's intention to sink ships in the Baltic Sea, suspected of intending to damage undersea cables. Well, it's disgusting. Disgusting. We must think about how to counteract it. Estonia itself can't realize it, so someone's behind it. But this is coming from the guy representing the country that's doing the sanctioned Black Sea fleet, or not Black Sea, but oil fleet. And yeah, and it's pretty disgusting what they're doing. And yeah, okay. Early this morning, the Estonian Navy detained a sanctioned vessel with no flag state. Our authorities are currently on board, says the Prime Minister of Estonia, inspecting its legal status and safety. Estonia takes suspicious activities in the Baltic Sea very seriously. So it's good to see that full-throated thing. Now, the U.S. is, like I said, creating this bill to fund and enforce oil sanctions on Russia's ghost fleet. I told you I'd come back to that. Okay, just one paragraph, and I think that this actually might have legs. The bill from Senators Joni Ernst, a Republican, and Richard Blumenthal, Democrat, creates a fund to enforce sanctions on vessels. Okay, now, this seems like it's not going to go anywhere because, after all, won't Trump have to sign off on a bill from the Congress? Yes. However, there's a reason why it might actually work, which sometimes also carries crude exports from Iran, a trade President Trump says he wants to bring down to zero to prevent it from getting a nuclear weapon. Trump hates Iran and anything related to Iran, and so he might actually sign this bill if it's all sanctioned stuff like Russia and Iran anyway. Okay, he might just go for that. Okay, so that's the good news. Here's the great news. Today was the Ramstein format. Yes, this morning I cataloged all the things that were being promised so far between the defense meeting and before the Ramstein format. Ramstein, excuse me. It's like Einstein. It's that's how you pronounce it in German. I hope I'm correct. So I was cataloging those things. Well, here's a longer list of those things that came out of the Ramstein format. Irish tea, $450 million pledge of drones, and Norway $100 million to co-fund the UK package, and Belgium another $1 billion in aid, and Denmark another 900 million euros, and on and on. Okay, turns out European allies just pledged over $21 billion in new military aid to Ukraine after the latest Ramstein format defense meeting. So this was a good day by any measure as far as that goes. Now here's the horrible news. Sit down if you're not sitting down. Okay, so Trump says Russia has to get moving. Too many people are dying, thousands a week, in a terrible and senseless war, a war that should never have happened, wouldn't have happened if I were president. Okay, same thing. Like it seems like he's cutting and pasting his Truth Social posts. Okay, now The president's press secretary, president's been clear. He's been frustrated with both sides of the conflict.
Ongoing. I obviously will not get ahead of the president or his team, but I think the president has been quite clear that he's been continually frustrated with both sides of this conflict, and he wants to see this fighting end. He wants the war to end. We believe we have leverage in negotiating a deal, to a peace deal, and we're going to use that leverage. And the president is determined to see this through.
Okay, so that's what she has to say. So Steve Witkoff goes to meet with Putin, and he's shaking his hand. He's smiling from ear to ear as he's shaking his hand. He's very happy to be there. So the meeting with Putin and Steve Witkoff lasted over 4 hours behind closed doors, Russian media reported. It's unclear what happened exactly or what statements might be made, but then we see him leaving. Putin's envoy, Dmitriev, has already met with Trump's representative, and the video shows Steve Witkoff leaving the hotel where the meeting took place. So he's meeting with Dmitriev. He's meeting with Putin. Dmitriev's going to be a player. Like, he's going to be something. Like, maybe he's Lavrov's new replacement, maybe something bigger, but yeah. And then we see, while Russia ramps up chemical attacks, missile strikes, and civilian targeting in Ukraine, Trump's envoy in Moscow cozying up to Putin. Okay, now he's supposed to be getting along with Putin, but he's not supposed to be just giving him the world, right? Was a ceasefire concluded? Do we have peace? Asked this individual, Sean Pinner. Okay, and, as we're seeing the news come out, well, here's what came out. You sitting down? Okay. Yulia Mendel puts this out. The fastest way to broker a ceasefire in Ukraine, said Witkoff, was to support a strategy that would give Russia ownership of 4 eastern Ukrainian regions in an attempt to annex illegally in 2022. 2 U.S. officials and 5 people familiar with the situation told Reuters. So that's what came out of the 4-hour meeting. Hey, we can have peace. Just give us those 4 oblasts. What? Okay, so the fastest way to peace is to just totally capitulate, says Putin. And this is what Witkoff is going to relay back. Michael McFaul said, I really hope this reporting is inaccurate. But if true, Witkoff is offering Putin even more Ukrainian territory than Russia occupies right now. This is insanely bad negotiating. This is not the art of the deal, right? This is just rolling over and taking it. I mean, that's it. So the Russians only actually occupy about 70% of those 4 oblasts, like 70%. So that's like, here, let's give you 100%. That is the fastest way to peace. And then it gets worse. I didn't think it could get worse, but it gets worse. So let me read this, and then we'll get onto this. Trump's envoy embrace of Russian demands worries Republicans and U.S. allies. Okay, so Republicans are alarmed by this, or at least the conservative Republicans are alarmed by this. But here it gets worse. Ukraine could be partitioned almost like Berlin after World War II as a part of a peace deal, says Trump's Ukraine envoy, not Witkoff, but Kellogg. And what? I mean, this is actually just like, I almost can't believe that I'm reading this story. This is the guy that's supposed to be the Ukrainian side negotiator, and he's talking about dividing it like post-war Berlin. But, the Germans were the aggressor here. Ukraine's the victim. That's the misery here. Okay, so here it is in the Times, this article. General Keith Kellogg suggested UK and France could lead Western zone of control, and then so they would have, like, there would be allies here with boots on the ground across this side of the Dnipro River, and then Ukraine could control this, and then Russia could control this, and there would be some kind of demilitarized zone along this line here. What? Okay, I'm not kidding. This is what's happened. General Keith Kellogg, a leading figure in U.S. efforts to end a 3-year war, suggested that the British, the French troops could occupy zones of control in the west of the country as part of a reassurance force, with Russia's army in the occupied east. Yeah, that's what it looks like. You could almost make it look like what happened with Berlin after World War II, when you had a Russian zone, a French zone, a British zone, and a U.S. zone, he said, except that the British and the Russians and the British, the Russians, the French, and the Americans occupied Germany, who is the aggressor. Russia right now is the aggressor. If anything, you should be talking about occupying Russia or parts of Russia in order to, this is crazy. You're west of the Dnipro, which is a major obstacle, Kellogg said. He later clarified that America would not be providing any ground forces. He suggested a demilitarized zone of 18 miles could be implemented along the existing lines of control in the east. Along the existing lines of control. That means where the battle lines are, that's where this goes. Okay, this is just, I'm beside myself here. I'm livid. Kellogg acknowledged that Putin, who has in recent weeks frustrated Trump with an intransigent approach to ceasefire talks, might not accept. This is even crazier. So Putin is stiff-arming Trump, who wants to make the deal, and Trump's not increasing sanctions. Kellogg is saying that Putin might not accept this, even though you're giving him everything. And you have a DMZ that you can monitor, and you've got this no-fire zone, and you can monitor that pretty easily. However, he added, now are there going to be violations? Probably, because there always are. But your ability to monitor that is easy. What just happened? I can't fathom this. Okay, at any rate, that's what's happened today. That's the ugly story. Like there's good, better, and horrible story. Okay, just to help you bring your blood pressure down a little bit, I've been saving this meme for some time for a day like today. If you're ever feeling sad, just go for a run. Because you'll realize that your physical health is way worse than your mental health. So there you are. All right, my friends, I'm sorry I didn't have better news here with that third story, but that's it for today. Thank you for the time, the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.